Good evening, by the way, and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. First, we want to ask you this question. Have you ever noticed the weird compulsion in people, a lot of people, to pretend that they're the opposite of who they obviously are? Jussie Smollett would be one example, but it's everywhere, and it's especially prevalent in politics. It's ubiquitous in the Democratic Party. Just a few weeks ago, one Democratic politician who'd worn blackface demanded the resignation of another Democratic politician for the crime of, yes, wearing blackface. That's more than hypocrisy. It's really an escape and evasion scheme. You escape scrutiny and evade punishment by accusing other people of doing exactly what you yourself are doing, but on a much grander scale. The people calling you a thief are picking your pocket. The ones calling you an adulterer are hitting on your wife. The ones claiming you're immoral are themselves deeply worried about spending eternity in flames, and probably for good reason. It's the Bill Clinton as feminist scam. We can give you a million examples. But the living embodiment of this syndrome, the all-time Grand Prix triple gold medal winner in the category, turns out to be running for president of the United States. It's Kirsten Gillibrand, the junior senator from New York. Now, Gillibrand is interesting not because there's a chance she will become the president. She won't. Gillibrand is fascinating because she so perfectly embodies the attitudes and the vanities of the modern Democratic Party and of our ruling class more broadly. If you want to know what they're thinking in the faculty lounge at Wesleyan, or out in Silicon Valley, or in Hollywood, watch Kirsten Gillibrand. She's who they all are. Like all of them, Gillibrand rarely utters a sentence anymore without some form of moral judgment. She appears to have retired from politics, actually. She's a preacher now.
This country was founded on some basic moral principles, that we have a moral compass as a nation. Our morality as a country is literally on a knife's edge.
For me, it's really a moral question. For me, it's very much a moral question. I've been called to fight as hard as I possibly can to restore that moral integrity, that moral decency.
Moral integrity, moral decency. It would be interesting to know if Gillibrand gave that lecture to her old friend Harvey Weinstein, or to her pal, disgraced New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman. Schneiderman, by the way, now stands accused of beating women and calling his Sri Lankan girlfriend a, quote, brown slave. Did she mention that to him? Did the question of moral principles ever come up during the time that Gillibrand spent with her mentor, Bill Clinton? Probably not. In fact, it's not exactly clear how Gillibrand or any of these people define the word moral. A couple of months ago, Gillibrand gave us a hint. Our future, she wrote in a tweet, is, quote, female, intersectional, powered by our belief in one another. Do you have any idea what any of that means? Gillibrand likely doesn't. No one's asked her to explain. They're afraid to ask her anything. Why? Because Gillibrand is a victim now. Bet you didn't know that she is. She's shielded from the scrutiny the rest of us received. She announced her new status as a victim just last week in a fundraising pitch. Quote, I'm already facing questions about my likability and tone, Gillibrand wrote. Sexism is already bubbling into the narrative around our campaign. But I certainly won't stop fighting for a country that values and respects women. Will you add your name to reject sexism in our political system? Get it? Kirsten Gillibrand is now oppressed. You wouldn't know that by looking. In fact, she seems like one of the most powerful people in the world. She's a U.S. senator and a presidential candidate. She went to a pricey all-girls boarding school, and then an Ivy League college, and then law school. And then she used political connections to get a prestigious legal clerkship, and then she got her Senate seat without really running for it. That all seems like a pretty high level of privilege. But no, despite a life of wealth and connections, Kirsten Gillibrand is now telling us she is oppressed. Who are her oppressors? Well, they're you and me, and anyone else who doesn't support her campaign for president. We're guilty of sexism. She's the victim of it. You won't be surprised to learn that Kirsten Gillibrand was one of the very first politicians to side with Jussie Smollett. She could empathize with another pampered rich person fighting for victimhood status. When the next hate hoax comes along, Gillibrand will probably tweet support of that, too. She can't resist a fad. Wherever the political opportunities are, she is there, too, in lockstep. Gillibrand once supported a balanced budget amendment. Now she backs the Green New Deal. She once bragged about keeping 2 guns under her bed. She had an A rating from the NRA. Now she wants to ban rifles. She says the NRA is not simply wrong, but evil.
The NRA has a chokehold on Congress. The NRA is concerned only with gun sales. It is literally all about money. It is all about greed. It has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. It's the power of money. It's the power of communications. It's the fear they instill in members. And it's wrong. It's morally wrong.
There it is again. It's morally wrong. The beauty of declaring something morally wrong, rather than just misguided or ineffective, is that you can't really argue with a moral absolute. You can only obey a moral absolute, and that's, of course, the point of laying it down. As a member of Congress not so long many years ago, Gillibrand said she believed in borders. She promised to crack down on sanctuary cities. She opposed awarding driver's licenses to illegal aliens. That was then. Now, she wants to abolish ICE.
I don't think ICE today is working as intended.
Well, you think you should get rid of the agency?
I believe that it has become a deportation force, and I think you should separate the criminal justice from the immigration issues, and I think you should reimagine ICE. And that's why I believe you should get rid of it, start over, reimagine it, and build something that actually works.
You can see her trying to remember the talking points there. Don't get them confused. Reimagine ICE. But she got a little over her skis. It turned out that when she said that, banning ICE wasn't very popular even among Democratic voters. So Gillibrand lurched back and said she didn't really want to get rid of ICE, though as you saw, she'd proposed exactly that. But now, just a few months later, she's lurching back again. Abolishing ICE? That qualifies as centrism in the Democratic Party right now. So Gillibrand needs something more radical than that if she wants to be considered the progressive candidate. And this week she found it. Gillibrand proclaimed that border security is immoral because it impedes the movement of indigenous peoples into our country, which apparently is really their country. Watch.
On immigration, I mean, there's a crisis going on at the border right now.
What's inhumane? We need to have proper asylum. This president doesn't believe in asylum. He's afraid of immigrants. He's afraid of refugees.
And I just want to note that a lot of these people are indigenous to this land, and that border is cutting them off.
And that's why the wall is so absurd and hurtful.
Just who are these indigenous people? Who knows? As long as they're female and intersectional, Kirsten Gillibrand believes they're our future.
Europe has a negative growth, and the United States is going to have a negative growth environment. I don't mean absolute negative. I mean slowing of growth in a material way that could be close to between 0 and 2% over the next 18 months. So we are going to be in a slower growth environment, and then, of course, that affects capital flows.
That was famous world investor Ray Dalio talking to our Maria Bartiromo in Davos, saying, you know, this isn't looking too ideal here. The global economy slowing. No matter what we do, we can't get out of that way, and it's going to be a problem. So let's get the read from Charlie Gasparino. He's not in Davos this year, but we're happy to have him here. Well, the message a lot of these guys are saying, I guess, Charlie, is that, you know, brace yourself.
Yeah. By the way, that's one of the few places that didn't throw me out when I was to cover.
That you knew of.
Yeah. Yes.
Sometimes we would go to you and we didn't know whether you knew where you were.
Or sometimes they wouldn't really announce that they're throwing me out. They would just throw me out.
Right? It was great stuff.
It was great.
Nothing like Sun Valley.
No.
Close.
No. Listen, Davos, just so you know, it's very 30,000 feet. They are focused on the world economy. No matter what people that watch this network, or some people watch this network, believe, we're not an island, okay? The United States is not Fortress America. You know, we are affected by global events. If you do trade and tariff wars, that will have an impact on the economy. And I think what Dalio is saying is something that a lot of people are saying, is that if the world economy goes into the you-know-whatter, over the next couple of months, we are going to be affected. If we...
In other words, this notion that people were building that we'd be a haven for all that cash that couldn't find a home.
It's going to impact us. Okay. And the fact is, the tariffs that Trump put on, the fact that he's not part of TPP, the fact that he's more isolationist on trade will exacerbate the sort of the global slowdown. It's going to hurt us even more, because they'll go tit for tat with us, and it's going to have an impact on certain industries. Anybody that tells you that's not going to happen doesn't understand economics 101.
And another trouble here is, well, people always salivated the prospect that talks are promising. Representatives from China are going to be in this country next week, and they're going to continue talking. If you're dealing with a slowdown, and it's a pronounced slowdown, and believe me, the IMF could be wrong on a lot of these forecasts. They often are. Well, that's going to limit how much bang for the buck you get from a trade deal.
So China, amid a slowdown, is if they give us some concessions, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Okay, might make a little bit of a difference because we're not in an absolute trade war with them, but it's not going to make that much of a difference. Now, that's the negative side. The positive side is people think, okay, and they better be right about this. And this is mainly you get this out of the White House: Mick Mulvaney, Larry Kudlow, Kevin Haslett, and Steve Mnuchin, who's over there. Mnuchin is over there. Kudlow is not.
I didn't think anyone from the administration could go.
I thought he was going. Well, maybe I'm wrong now.
Yeah.
Maybe they
because,
decided.
I actually like it better when it's just the corporate business heavyweights. The politicians are at. Macron's not there.
Right.
Merkel not there. That I think you get a better read of the makeup of the world without politics when these guys aren't there.
I don't know. That place, unlike Milken, the Milken conference, that is a very hands-on, granular conference where you actually. This place is 30,000 feet. You just don't get.
They're
that.
all big names. They're all there.
I know they have.
They're pretty big names.
They have a lot of fun drinking Swiss Miss. But the point I'm trying to make is that
you ran into Swiss Miss a couple of years ago.
I did.
Right?
Very, very cute lady.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
But the point I'm trying to make is that.
But to a man and a woman, they're all saying this. I mean, that they're worried.
But this is what
this
is what Mick Mulvaney would say. What Larry Kudlow would say, that we just cut corporate taxes a lot.
Right.
We're going to get some bang for the buck out of that. So we're going to be okay because of our deregulation and tax cuts. And
we're going to be more than okay. Kevin Haslett was on our this morning. I always feel better when I watch him because he's always smiling. But
he does have a permanent smile.
Right, he's always smiling. That we're going to grow 3%, and that's a pretty nice clip.
That's if things happen according to them. Obviously, if we grow 1%, the problem that the administration had is that the deficits are going to widen out because they cut taxes, and then that is going to get, if we get in that slow growth mode, it's going to give the Democrats, whoever runs, a big.
You've looked at the 8 who are in the race
Right.
now or something like that, and I think it was the Washington Post that went through upwards of 30 plus who could be legitimate contenders. We focus on Congresswoman Cortez and think she's representative of that, but to a man and woman, they all share more government and higher taxes, just not up to 70%. Like even the House Budget Chief coming in is talking about raising the corporate taxes 28%. A lot of this is greasing the skids, I think, for 2020 and their message. How do you think that message will be received?
Well, I could tell you that just from the Wall Street donors who I deal with, and there's a lot of Democratic Wall Street donors, believe it or not, Barack Obama was able to become president because he had seed money from Wall Street early on. He had a guy named Mark Gallagher, who's a big hedge fund investor, worked at Blackstone's. He's got his own shop now, kind of forming the core, and he brought in people like Dick Fold and Larry Fink from Blackstone, and they assembled a team that gave him money. I think the problem with the guys and gals running right now, except for Biden, is that no one really, they're so far left. They're even farther left than Obama. Like the core Wall Street guys believe they can deal with Obama. I don't
think this party today could nominate a Bill Clinton.
I don't think so. But here's the one thing: the Wall Street guys I talk to, they're holding out for Joe Biden.
Is that right?
Yes, they are not going to open their checkbook until they hear what he's going to do. And if he goes...
And by the way, if you raise a lot of money in small denominations, we learned from Barack Obama, that can open the way.
Remember, he had the seed money from Wall Street to start. It created the infrastructure so they can go out, man the phone banks.
He was the first to get it online and do that. That was pretty impressive.
I know that, but he was...
You're a hater.
No, but listen what I'm saying. He was only able to do that because he had seed money from these rich fat cats.
I don't buy that.
Yes.
He had a lot of money coming in from average.
From Wall Street,
okay.
the beginnings.
I think you're reinventing history.
Larry Fink from Blackstone, Dick Fold from Lehman, Gallagher, Gary...
Aunt Betty, Uncle
by the way,
Al, $25 at a clip.
Gary Cohn from Goldman, who went to work for Trump, was one of the first Obama supporters.
American history scored more small donations than any other combined?
You need the infrastructure.
Barack Obama.
They developed the infrastructure.
It's not a pro-con. I'm just telling you, you make noise on that level. That's why work gets the attention he does. You're off to the races.
But you need an infrastructure, and if you don't have that baseline from Wall Street and the financial community, it's hard to create.
Start small. Just like you did. You started small
and thought big.
Insignificant.
Yeah, I started with
you now.
Yeah, I was with you from the beginning.
There we
go.
Right. All right, we shall see. Thank you, my friend, very, very much.